When a seasonal nurse finished her rounds at a remote wilderness camp during a heavy rainstorm, all protocols were followed. Medications were logged. Lights were shut off. She was expected at breakfast the next morning, but she never arrived. Officials quickly ruled it an accident, while locals whispered about the surrounding woods, and the case quietly went cold. Years later, a new camp owner reviewing old medical records noticed a detail no one had questioned before. Patient treatments were logged long after the nurse had disappeared, breaking the timeline and turning a presumed accident into something far more unsettling. Subscribe to the channel if you like the video, and click on the bell icon to get more true crime stories. The camp sat deep in the pine country, where cell service thinned to nothing and the nights folded in fast. It was the kind of place parents trusted because it felt simple. Canoes stacked by the dock. Hand-painted signs pointing to archery and arts and crafts. A gravel road that ended at a wooden gate and went no farther. For 8 weeks every summer, children arrived with duffel bags and homesickness, and they left with mosquito bites and stories. The nurse arrived mid-June. Her name was written on the staff board in blue marker, tucked between the lifeguard schedule and the meal rotation. She was 34, certified, experienced, and calm in the way parents like to hear about during orientation calls. She handled medications twice a day. She logged temperatures. She kept inhalers labeled and locked. She slept in a small room attached to the infirmary, a narrow space with a cot, a desk, and a window that faced the trees. The first 2 weeks passed without incident. Minor injuries. A stomach bug that moved through cabin C. A camper with night terrors who found comfort sitting on the infirmary steps after dark. Staff noticed the nurse stayed late some nights, finishing paperwork long after the bell rang. It didn't seem strange. Camp ran on schedules and lists and she was meticulous. On a Wednesday near the middle of the season, storms rolled in by late afternoon. Thunder chased the campers inside. Dinner was loud. By evening, the rain settled into a steady fall. Lights out came early. Counselors did head counts. The nurse made her final round, checking the infirmary log and securing the medicine cabinet. That was the last confirmed sighting. Her door was found locked the next morning. The cot was neatly made. Her shoes were gone. Her car remained in the staff lot, backed into its usual space, keys not inside. A coffee mug sat rinsed in the sink. The radio on her desk was off. Nothing missing except her. The camp director called it in as a possible walk-off. Adults leave. Stress builds. People need air. The woods could make anyone feel small. The first assumption settled quickly and comfortably. She'd stepped out to clear her head and misjudged the terrain. Rangers searched the trails. Volunteers lined up shoulder to shoulder. Dogs followed scent to the gravel road and lost it near the gate. Parents were not told right away. Camp continued. Activities resumed with an edge of quiet. The infirmary stayed closed, a substitute nurse brought in from town. Staff were instructed to say she'd had a family emergency. Kids noticed the locked door. They noticed the absence of the steady presence who handed out bandages and listened. The search widened. A creek downstream was dragged. The river beyond it was scanned for weeks. Helicopters passed overhead, chopping the air. A boot was found and ruled out. A jacket surfaced and didn't match. Every theory pointed outward. The forest. The water. A sudden choice to leave. Then small details began to tug. Her phone was never located, but her charger remained plugged in by the desk. Security logs showed the infirmary door locked from the inside at 9:41 p.m., then unlocked at 6:12 a.m. the next morning. No one could explain how that was possible. The system was old. The timestamps were probably wrong. The explanation stuck because it needed to. Camp closed the season early. The story faded into a local headline and then into rumor. Some said she met someone. Others said she couldn't handle the isolation. Over time, the narrative smoothed itself into something easier to live with. An adult who left on her own. 7 years passed. The camp changed owners. Renovations began. Old files were boxed and labeled for storage. During an audit required by new insurance, a clerk flagged a set of medical logs that didn't align with the season calendar. Entries dated weeks after the nurse disappeared. Handwriting that matched hers. Notes about medications dispensed. Symptoms recorded at hours when the infirmary was supposedly empty. The logs raised a question no one wanted to answer. If she left that night, who was she treating months later? The medical logs were thin at first glance, the kind of paperwork most people skim. Dates. Initials. Abbreviations written fast. During the audit, the clerk assumed a filing error. Old forms reused. A substitute nurse signing late. That explanation held for exactly 3 minutes, until the handwriting was compared to archived intake sheets from the missing nurse's first week. The match was unmistakable. Letters leaned slightly right. The capital G curled at the bottom. Numbers slashed through the sevens. The same habit of underlining medication dosages twice. Even the spelling errors repeated themselves, identical and consistent. Whoever wrote the later entries had her hand, her rhythm, her habits. The dates were the problem. The logs resumed 12 days after her disappearance. Not daily. Not consistent. Sporadic entries scattered across 3 months. Notes referenced campers by cabin number, not name, as if privacy still mattered. One page mentioned a boy with asthma whose inhaler went missing again. Another described a girl complaining of headaches after swim time, advised rest, fluids, and observation. Those campers existed. Enrollment records confirmed it. Some of them were interviewed years later, now adults, most with no memory of the nurse at all. A few remembered someone else. Not clearly. A woman in the infirmary after hours. The lights low. A voice calm but unfamiliar. They assumed it was the replacement. Staff schedules told a different story. The substitute nurse clocked out at 8 p.m. every night. The logs referenced treatments at 10:30. At 11:15. Once just after midnight. Security records showed the infirmary door opening on those nights, always from the inside. Investigators were brought back in quietly. The camp owners wanted answers before panic. Files were pulled from evidence storage, including items dismissed years earlier. The locked door anomaly resurfaced. So did the radio on the desk, its internal battery still functional when tested, tuned to a local emergency frequency. A technician replayed archived transmissions from that summer. Static dominated most of the recordings. Storm interference. Distant chatter. On one reel, a voice cut through for less than 4 seconds. A woman. Calm. Professional. Reporting a medical incident using the camp's internal codes. The timestamp placed the transmission 6 weeks after the disappearance. Attention shifted away from the forest. Law enforcement re-examined the infirmary building itself. Floor plans showed a crawlspace added during an expansion decades earlier, intended for plumbing access. Renovation notes mentioned sealing it off after rodent issues. No record confirmed the seal was permanent. Ground-penetrating scans were ordered under the guise of routine construction planning. The scans returned irregularities beneath the infirmary floor. Voids where none should exist. A narrow chamber extending toward the old maintenance shed. Soil density inconsistent with surrounding ground. Enough space for a person to move. Enough space to hide. Excavation was approved under strict confidentiality. When the floorboards came up, the smell arrived first. Something chemical. Preservatives mixed with damp earth. The chamber held shelves. Supplies. A cot. Empty medication vials arranged carefully in rows. Recent dust patterns suggested use long after the building was supposedly abandoned. On a makeshift desk lay a final logbook. The handwriting matched. The last entry ended mid-sentence. Investigators returned to the camp quietly, under the guise of property inspection. The area around the old infirmary was overgrown, weeds crawling over cracked concrete. Beneath the surface, the crawlspace remained intact, sealed but not impervious. Ground-penetrating scans revealed more anomalies. Narrow chambers stretching deeper than renovation records suggested, small niches built into the walls, and patches of soil with unnatural density. Excavation began in secret. The first signs were subtle. Dusted shelves, old boxes stacked neatly, items left as if someone had stepped away and never returned. A cot lay pressed into the corner. Personal effects were arranged methodically. A flashlight, worn notebooks, medication vials labeled with dates far beyond the official disappearance. Some bottles contained drugs that should have been accounted for. Others were entirely foreign to camp supplies. The recovered logbooks told a story in stark detail. Early entries were clinical, detailing fevers, scrapes, and stomach bugs. Later notes shifted tone. Observations replaced treatments. Sleep patterns were charted. Emotional responses to storms or night noises were recorded. Several entries referred to campers by cabin number, followed by comments on compliance and calm after isolation. The word subjects appeared repeatedly. Cross-referencing the log dates with camp records revealed discrepancies. Some nights when campers were supposedly in their bunks, entries recorded their presence in the infirmary chamber. Counselors had logged brief absences as bathroom trips or sleepwalking incidents. No one questioned it at the time. A former maintenance worker corroborated part of the story. He remembered reopening the sealed crawlspace mid-season under the nurse's request, supposedly to fix a pipe. No one thought it strange at the time. He never knew why the area was used afterward. Financial audits added another layer. Medication orders exceeded official use by nearly 40%. Sedatives and anti-anxiety medications appeared on invoices. Some were dispensed according to the log entries, others vanished entirely. Cadaver dogs alerted near the maintenance shed during the new investigation. Excavation uncovered preserved remains wrapped in a tarp. Dental records confirmed the identity. The missing nurse had never left the property. She had created a hidden space and continued operating there for weeks, possibly months. The public report stated she suffered a psychological break and created a hidden infirmary, continuing her duties in isolation. No charges were filed. No further searches were announced. What remained unexplained were the camper names in the logbooks, some appearing only once, then disappearing. Records showed no transfers or pickups. Parents had memories of children returning, but the logs suggested something else entirely. The camp was sold, renovated, and reopened under a new name. The old infirmary was demolished, filled with concrete, leaving no trace above ground. The logbooks, preserved in evidence storage, ended abruptly. The final entry, unfinished, hinted at plans no one could confirm. The questions lingered. How many children were truly seen in that hidden space? What had she intended to do next? And what would have happened if no one had found the logs at all?